But let's have a crack at the breaking news. Fines and sanctions been handed down to the Melbourne Storm players in the party video with the still mysterious white powder. Cameron Munster, Brandon Smith and Chris Lewis also made public apologies. Just have a listen.
As some of you maybe have may know, I've had a difficult relationship with alcohol in the past. I thought I had dealt with this issue, but clearly I still have some hurdles to overcome. Starting tomorrow, I will be attending a treatment facility for the next 4 weeks. I know I've let a lot of people down, and I'll do whatever it takes to restore your faith in me. Hopefully you'll see by my actions that I am dedicated to change.
I hate that I've added to the stereotype of players, but thank the NRL for understanding that I'm just a young man that made a poor mistake by putting myself in the situation I did.
All right, so a number of things pop up through this. First of all, let's just get some of the business out of the way in terms of the sanctions and fines. The NRL came down with game suspensions and then some, as you can see, they had some payments as well they have to make. And then on top of that, the Storm went harder.
Yeah, the sanctions are heavy in terms of a monetary point of view, Tone, but I think there's a widespread view around the game that they've essentially been lashed with a wet lettuce if they're only missing one game each. That seems a pretty... You think of Barbecue Gate and all the hysteria around that, those players were forced to miss 3 and 4 games. These blokes have managed to get away with 1. So that's the widespread view around the game at the moment.
All right, so what about the $100,000 suspended and the other things? This is for Cameron Munster from the Melbourne Storm. He's also going into rehab. We heard him say there that he had a different relationship with alcohol. And then he says a 12-month off the booze.
He's openly admitted to having issues. He goes into rehab tomorrow to try and fix those issues that he needs to deal with. I think there is probably a little bit of an issue there with the Melbourne Storm at the moment. It's very sensitive, and I think he may have had some indiscretions. That's why he's probably found himself in the position that he's in now. I don't agree with the 12-month no alcohol. I think that's up to the specialists or experts to decide that. I mean, him going into rehab, how do you tell a kid, listen, you just stay off the drink for a year without actually knowing what the issue or problem is? That's why he's going into rehab. I would have thought they'd leave that to... I just think it puts a bullseye on his head, puts a target on his head.
He's done it before, though, hasn't he? He's had some time off with the booze.
He has.
And played his best footy.
Yeah, but just going back to... Yeah, he'll be fine. This is the thing, Fitz, is that Cameron needs to identify the issues he's got right now because he's got a lifetime ahead of him. He's about to have a kid with his partner, Bianca. So he needs to fix it now, right? Because it's an important part of his career. He can rebuild and get back, get his life back to where it needs to get to. And, he does have another 2 years at Melbourne. The Brisbane team Hoops are interested in him being their marquee player, the new franchise, which is about to be announced over the next. But all of this doesn't help that. So he needs to prove it not only to himself but to the club and to his teammates, and pretty much get back to where he needs to be, right?
It is tough, that year of alcohol. I mean, my 2 days a week is a grind.
I know, yeah.
And he's not the Lone Ranger who's had issues with booze on this panel, let me tell you. But I've got a lot of empathy for Cameron. I don't think that he will be, when it all shakes out, I don't think that he will be at the Melbourne Storm next season. I think that he'll end up being put on the open market. There'll be a variety of other clubs that'll queue up for his services. I think the Storm are at their wits' end. Well, they're not going to be admitted till 2023 Fitz. So, but I think when the dust settles, I'd be surprised if Cameron Munster's still at the Melbourne Storm.
But I think as well the fact that Melbourne Storm as a club has thrown the book at these 3 players in particular shows they could have settled with what the NRL had dished out, but they've gone even harder. And potentially, I know we're speaking about Cameron Munster a lot, it gives the impression that it is an ongoing and bigger issue when it comes to taking him out of the leadership group, sending him to rehab. Yes, it will be ongoing welfare and looking after him and finding, what you said, Braith, the source of the problem. But I think that they've come down really hard on the 3 players.
No, I agree. What about then this mysterious white powder? Because all this wasn't upfront enough for some journalists at the Zoom conference. As I said, all came down to that powder as the Courier Mail's Peter Bedell put a shot on CEO Justin Rodsky.
This is a farce. You're playing us all for fools, Justin. And what are you going to do about it? I mean, there's clear vision that they've taken something. Have you asked the players that? Are they going to admit to anything?
Peter, sorry, have you not listened to anything I've been saying? This is not a farce. This is a serious situation that the club has dealing with and has imposed significant sanctions.
In your eyes, what was the stuff on the table? What was it? Sugar? Candy?
In my eyes...
What was it? I'm asking you, what was it?
I don't know what it was.
Well, how can you not know? If you're doing a robust investigation as the CEO, how do you not know?
Because, Peter, I wasn't in the room.
I wasn't in the room where it happened.
Tony, he looked like he wanted to be at home under the doona in the fetal position once Bomber Bedell got the cast iron prong out and started to really.
But is there
ask the
any? Do
hard
they have to?
questions.
Why should they reveal? That there's no testing. Does it kick over if they were to say, oh yes, it was cocaine. We believe it was. Does that kick over into a police investigation then?
I wondered whether we needed to know. Do they need to know? Do they need to come out and say this is what happened? Obviously, there is an issue that is being addressed by what has been handed down by Melbourne Storm.
I think we all know.
Yeah.
I think we all know. But there's an element there. Yeah, they've got to protect their players too. I mean, Munster's going to rehab tomorrow. You know what I mean? They've got to protect their players. They've got to look after them. That's what the Melbourne Storm are all about. That's what all successful clubs are about. Yes, they've punished them accordingly. They've been harsh in their punishment. They'll deal with what they need to deal with behind closed doors and get these guys right. Make sure they're okay.
Yeah.
You know, that's probably paramount for them at the moment.